My name's David Carr, and I teach Old Testament, sometimes called Hebrew Bible, at Union Theological Seminary. And I want to talk today about how the Bible, the Hebrew Bible, was formed amidst the furnace of trauma. I've long been a specialist in the formation of the Hebrew Bible, and I've studied how it was formed over centuries by different authors writing sources and adding to them. But my whole perspective on this question was changed 5 years ago when I underwent a near-fatal bicycle accident. Now, when I teach my introduction to the Old Testament at Union Seminary, I start with a survey of the building blocks of the Bible. The earliest sources of the Bible, royal psalms, love songs, wisdom, myths of creation and flood that are now embedded in biblical books. Versions of these types of texts could have been found in any ancient Near Eastern library in Mesopotamia or Egypt. With these early building blocks, ancient Israel had a type of collection that was much like the collection you'd find anywhere else in the ancient Near East. But then, as we move forward in the introduction of the Old Testament, we look at what happens to these texts. Century after century, Israel had to undergo armies crossing its territory, destroying its cities, carrying its people away to exile in foreign lands. And amidst this experience of devastation, the Hebrew Bible Old Testament was formed. So these earlier building blocks got embedded in texts about prophetic judgment on Israel, about hope for the future, about return. And in particular, the Old Testament came to focus on a story of the origins of Israel as a landless people, the heirs of ancestors and matriarchs who lived as foreigners in a foreign land, and of a people who wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. These stories about Israel's landless ancestors came to have particular meaning for Israel as it underwent these attacks of wartime powers and then their eventual exile into Babylon, so that they found themselves landless. And these stories of landless ancestors had particular meaning for them and gave them hope. So it was out of this kind of experience of communal trauma that the texts of the Old Testament, its prophecies, its stories in the Torah, in the books of Genesis, Exodus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, and other parts of the Bible took shape, so that the Bible that we now have was shaped amidst these experiences of suffering. And this is part of why the Bible, the Hebrew Bible, Old Testament, is still read by so many people all across the world, while the myths and psalms and other traditions of the empires that attacked Israel were lost in sand.